Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Zachary Elbow Fever Furman, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the GOAT's composition. Now this is an advanced guide, so I won't be going over the basics, so if you already know what GOATs is, if you already experienced and watched it in pro, I'm going to explain a little bit more in depth about what it is. So let's just jump right into it. Now, before we even get started, let's talk about the different types of GOATs compositions there are. So the OG GOATs composition run by the GOATs team contenders was the Reinhardt, D.Va, and the Zarya with a Brig, Lucio, and Moira. Now what this enabled was a very fast death ball style. The Moira was very important for keeping everyone alive, because Moira's main goal is just to put out as much healing as possible, and they would run over the competition. It was a very overwhelming playstyle, and it was very hard to counter at the time. Over time, GOAT's composition started to change, and we started to see Moira being subbed out for different heroes, like Ana and Zen. Ana was mainly used for her anti-nade and her utility. What she would be able to do was shut down a Moira GOAT by denying heals. In terms, Ana GOATs became a counter to Moira GOATs. Now, to counteract the Ana GOATs, as that got more popular, was the Zen GOATs, where we took the Ana out and put a Zenyatta in. What this does is, from the Moira, we trade out the healing aspect and put in more damage. So what this means is the GOATs composition is a little bit more frail and harder to keep alive, but at the same time, it does a lot more damage. This damage can come from the Discord Orb, obviously adding 33% more damage onto any target it is marked with, and it also adds another character who is technically a high DPS support. Now if Ana GOATs is a counter to Moira GOATs, and Zen GOATs is a counter to Ana GOATs, then Moira GOATs is in a way a counter to Zen GOATs as well. The reason is, when there's that much damage output, a great way to recover is to use brute force and healing per second. This means the old death style of attacking can come back into GOATs and run over a Zen composition. But to be fair, it's not a guaranteed counter the same way an Ana nade is. Overall, Zen GOATs has become the most popular in recent times, seeing it a lot in contenders and in Overwatch World Cup. Now, if you are wondering if there are any counters to these compositions of GOATs, of course there is. Against Zen GOATs, which is most popular at the moment, it is very weak to high cleave and high splash, which means high cleave hitting multiple targets at once, and splash, an explosion projectile that hits, and it has a splash radius around it that deals damage if you are inside. So now that we talked about our GOATs composition and the counter to Zen GOATs, we're going to be talking about the new revolution that has been going on through GOATs in the past couple of months. It is the Winston GOATs. Also known as dive GOATs, Winston GOATs is run on maps with high grounds that can be utilized to have cleave over the enemy in a safe place. This means Winston has a safe place to put a lot of damage on multiple targets, and when he is pressured, he has an escape tool with the leap, and he has an engagement tool with the bubble. This means the low heals from a Zenyatta, Lucio, and Brigitte altogether is not going to be enough to sustain through all that cleave plus a strong engagement. Now that we talked about the dive GOAT variations of GOAT's composition, I want to talk about the three characters that have never been swapped out in a GOAT's composition. That is the Brigitte, the Lucio, and the Zarya. Now, Lucio is pretty much always in there for the engagements. You need to be fast with GOAT's compositions, and a lot of times, even with dive GOATs, it is more important to have speed boost for people like Zarya and for anyone else to collapse upon the enemy team. Now what makes Brigitte and Zarya such an interesting combo that is necessary to GOAT's composition is the protection and utility they both bring to the table. Now we could be talking about things like Graviton Surge and armor packs, but right now let's just focus on projected bubbles and the bash combo. Now offensively, Zarya's projected bubbles is great for being aggressive, putting it on a Winston or a Reinhardt to get some sick cleave in, to put damage down, and to build ultimates. With the current patch that's being played on the contender scenes and on the Overwatch World Cup, Brigitta's bash can still go through barriers. This means that Reinhardt is susceptible to a lot of damage for that 1 second that he is stunned. This is why Zenyatta Goats is so favored. When a bash is hit, Discord is put on, or Discord is put on before the bash, and everyone focuses the Rein. Their goal is to melt the Reinhardt immediately, because Reinhardt is the linchpin of Goat's composition. A 5v6 without a Reinhardt is impossible, but a 5v6 without, say, a Zenyatta is not. To protect our Reinhardts from being instantly destroyed by one shield bash, a Discord, and literally everyone shooting him at once, projected barrier has to be used defensively to save from either the bash or the follow-up. This means Zarya has a very difficult task of using the barriers to be offensive and defensive. It is Zarya's job to make sure that Reinhardt does not get immediately melted after one strong push from the enemy team. One bash could mean the entire game, one barrier could mean the entire fight. So when you watch contenders right now and you see a lot of Goats v Goats and you want to judge how strong a team is, make sure to watch for 1, the Zarya, and 2, the Brigitta, because they will be the playmakers of the team. Bashing in key moments, like in a Graviton Surge to make sure Reinhardt's shield is down for the big bomb to go off, is crucial. Watching Zarya and how she uses not only self-bubble, but more importantly, projected bubble to be either offensive or defensive is key to play. Also, when you see Dive Goats with the Winston, you now know exactly why Dive Goats is a thing, and also watch for Primal Rage uses and see how the Winston knocks away the teams and tries to split them, and then one side of that team will get focus fired. Before we go, I want to talk about one last thing, and that is the variations of Goats without a D.Va and with Surprise, a DPS. Now, some might not consider this a Goats composition because it's not a 3-3, but in my eyes, it still plays the same role. The two Goats compositions with the DPS I've seen with the most success are taking out the D.Va and putting in a McCree or a Mei. The reason the D.Va is taken out is because you still need the main tank on their role, you still need the Zarya to protect the main tank, the Brigitte to make plays and set up, and you still need your 2 other healers, being a Lucio and whatever other composition of Goats you want to play, whether that is Ana, Zen, or Moira, most likely being the Zenyatta. Now, this is something a lot less concrete and something that is still very new and fluid and could be changing with playstyle and composition, but most likely with the McCree composition, the point is to double up on stuns. This means Brigitte lands a nice stun on the Reinhardt after projected barrier is used, and to add more time to when the Reinhardt is in that stun animation, they chain the CC with a flashbang. This makes Reinhardt a lot more vulnerable for more time, and it also gives the enemy team a lot higher chances of finishing the Reinhardt and pretty much guaranteeing the fight. This also means in a Graviton Surge we have another form of CC that, if hit correctly, can stun literally everyone in the Graviton and shut down the entire team full of Brigitte shields, full of Reinhardt shields, and projected barriers, as long as it is timed correctly. And last but not least, we have the Mei composition, also known as Snow Goats or Scoats? Scoats? Is that how I pronounce it? That's so dumb. Snoats. Is it Snoats? I don't care, it's stupid. This composition acts like a normal Goats comp, but now with an added utility of Mei walls and freezes. This means up close against a Goats v Goats setup, but one team having a Mei, the Mei has significant power in range, especially when shields go down and the fight breaks out and starts to devolve. Mei walls have a great usability to cut off certain people from their healers or split teams in half. This meaning if a sound barrier is coming in, a well-timed Mei wall could deny the Reinhardt from having that shield. Or say a Zenyatta pops ult and a well-placed wall in a Graviton could cut off that healing from some of the teammates. And I think that's where I'm going to stop for now. Today we talked a lot about the macro plays of why Goats is played, the compositions they are running, and how each hero is picked and why they are picked. If you would like for me in a future video to explain the microplays of GOAT's composition, I can also do that. We can talk a little bit more about how projected barrier bubble is used, how personal bubble is used, ult economy, and we could talk about combos and counter. Thank you all for listening. I hope you learned something new, and if you would like to see more, please do stay around, subscribe, maybe share this with a friend. The more we know about GOAT's composition, the more educated we come about Overwatch, the better Overwatch becomes. So let's make this a better game. Thank you guys for watching.